Story 1. The passenger seat in their car is suddenly always adjusted for someone else. A ghost with very specific ergonomic needs. Story 2. When they suddenly begin relentlessly finding faults in you and picking fights they try to blame on you, vilifying you becomes their way of justifying their actions. Story 3. He never wanted to post photos of me on social media because he did not believe in it. The truth was social media was his hub for finding girls. Story 4. My ex-wife started talking all the time about a new coworker and was secretly texting him for months after we had just gotten married. I first became suspicious when I noticed her texting late at night. I was having trouble sleeping and rolled over to face her side of the bed. She quickly put her phone away. I did not think much of it until I noticed she had changed her iPhone settings to hide who was texting and notifications. She became overly protective of her phone, always had it with her, and whenever she set it down it was face down. She started coming home late from her restaurant job frequently, with excuses about waiting for customers to leave or doing side work. Then she began giving this coworker rides home because he did not have a car. The final straw was when she made a travel kit for him to go back to Ohio to see his children. I was not happy about that, and we fought about whatever this friendship was between them. After our fight, the man left his phone in the car. It took every fiber of my being not to throw it down a sewer drain. I took a detour with our children in the car to drop off his phone, even though we had a 45-minute drive to take Christmas photos and the house was another 20 minutes out of the way. I told my wife that this friendship needed to end or our marriage would not work. She weakly agreed, but the sneaky texting did not stop. About a week later, she left her phone when she ran out to the store and got a bunch of notifications while she was out. I unlocked her phone to see what was going on and found a large amount of inappropriate and suggestive messages. The most recent night, she had dropped him off after her shift, and then invited him to go to Walmart after he had already gone inside to shower. I confronted her when she got back but said I would not discuss it with the children awake. After they went to bed, we had another fight. The only reason I did not leave that night was because of our children. She apologized the next day and had me watch as she blocked his number. She then spent the entire month of December love-bombing me and acting like she cared. But the damage was done and our marriage never recovered. The other odd thing while she was seeing her affair partner was that she initiated sex more often and was much more intimate with me. As soon as the relationship with her coworker ended, she went back to barely caring. Sorry for the long post. It has been over a year and a half and I have had a hard time processing everything since we separated. This is the first time I have talked about it to anyone other than close family. Summary: watch for changes in communication, sudden secrecy regarding phones, and weird changes in behavior. Story 5. In cases of cheating at work, people talk about a colleague more than they should. Story 6. People do not want to hear this, but it is true for some. Have you noticed that your relationship has been going really well lately? Your partner seems to be in a good mood all the time and they seem extra nice to you. Have you noticed that you two are fighting much less than you used to? Does everything seem perfect? For some people who are unfaithful, that is exactly how it plays out. They are in a relationship and are somewhat happy but also resentful. They do not want to leave, but they feel they are missing out on being single and may blame their partner. They may be unhappy about minor issues and critical of your sex life because they want more and feel you have a monopoly on it. Once they start being unfaithful, that weight and pressure disappears. They do not feel like they are missing out. They may not hate you. They may still care for you. They may feel a little guilty and act extra nice. They may be less interested in or demanding about sex because they are getting it elsewhere. They are in a better mood because they are getting what they want. They probably have a plausible excuse for being busier than usual. You are probably spending a bit less time together, but everything seems great. Until you find out. Story 7. They may become distant and cold, often glued to their phone and no longer showing affection. Conversely, an unfaithful partner may feel guilty, become overly affectionate, and desire sex more frequently than usual. Story 8. A sudden, drastic change in attitude. They abruptly become distant and do not want to spend time with you. Or it can be the opposite. They suddenly become more loving, constantly saying I miss you and you know I love you. I have experienced both. Story 9. When they completely freak out because you tag them in a happy family event on social media. Story 10. She accuses you of cheating because she is always thinking about getting caught. Story 11. There is a chilliness that was not there before, almost like a yes but vibe. I could not notice it then because I did not know it existed. Some people become mean when they know they are being hurtful and want you to end the relationship. That puzzled me. May we all find what our hearts are looking for. Story 12. As a woman, you may start getting seemingly inexplicable urinary tract infections and yeast infections. Story 13. When someone suddenly becomes defensive about small questions or overly protective of their phone. Story 14. Leaving work early to buy food or returning late from work because they were grocery shopping, especially when it should not take long. Story 15. The only time I was cheated on involved a lifelong best friend. Everyone was fine with them sleeping in the same bed because her mother said they were basically siblings. I even believed her when she said the boxers I found on the floor were mine. I probably did not really believe it, but I wanted to, since she was my first. I know the post asked for something not obvious, so I felt I needed to share my naive story. Story 16. I take my phone into the bathroom every time and can be there for 20 minutes. Apparently people think I am constantly swiping and tapping, but in reality I am just playing Block Blast or 2048. Story 17. She broke up with you for no reason and refused to try to work things out. For her, the relationship had to end immediately. I laughed out loud when she came crawling back 3 months later. Story 18. When they tell you about people who were hitting on them, they often leave out the one they are actually considering leaving you for, even if only for a night. An even clearer sign is when they intentionally start a fight just to get away from you. They may be with someone else for a night, a few nights, or an entire week. Story 19. If they have been cheating the whole time, nothing in their behavior will change. It becomes the baseline, which is the goal. It is worse when the person they are cheating with is aware and helps cover it up. I have noticed cheating partners often shower as soon as they arrive home and will not touch you until they have showered. In my experience, they do not like jokes about cheating. Story 20. They hide their phone because of conversations they know they should not be having. They become emotionally distant without reason or warning. They start arguments over small things and lie about where they are going and who they will be with. They claim they are not talking to anyone, yet still have inappropriate conversations with that person or others despite knowing how you feel. They constantly seek validation from others rather than from their partner. Story 21. Over-explaining small details about where they have been and with whom. Story 22. Sudden disappearance of interest in sex. After my ex slept with a random person on a girl's night out, our sex life dropped off the face of the earth. She became mean toward me, and my every advance was rejected. Soon after, when I began noticing the change in attitude, the gaslighting started. It's all in your head. Nothing happened. You're so insecure. Don't you trust me? Fast forward 2 sexless years. We had broken up a couple of weeks prior when the friend she went out with that night told me what happened. All I could say in the moment was that I had suspected it almost immediately. Then I found out she had been having an affair for at least the final 6 to 7 months of our relationship, though I suspect it was much longer. Story 23. Emotional cheating is really easy to fall into. Your brain rationalizes the friendly banter. They are just a good friend, not realizing the boundary line has gone from blurred to crossed. Story 24. They come home from running errands and immediately take a shower. Story 25. Emotionally detaching, becoming irrationally angry about things that previously would not have upset them and offering strange reasons for their outbursts. Taking their phone everywhere and spending hours in the bathroom with it while denying it, returning to the shared home at odd hours covered in perfume you do not wear or covered in glitter, blaming you for everything that has gone wrong in the relationship with little evidence, and constantly changing the shared history with details intended to hurt you deeply. I tried to save the marriage because I felt I had to honor the vows. I became very ill as a result, and I now know never to sacrifice my well-being when someone is being abusive. I have been divorced for a few years now and I am much happier. Story 26. Moving to another spot to use their phone? I remember the pattern now, but I did not think about it at the time. They would sit next to me, When the phone went off with a text notification, they would get up as if stretching or to grab a drink, then come back and sit where the phone was angled away from me as they texted. It happened every time the phone went off. I never questioned it because people sit in different spots all the time. I only found out a few years later when they told me, and I thought, what the fuck? Story 27. When you come home from work early, and there is a rope ladder made from blankets tied together hanging out of your bedroom window. Story 28. They come home smelling of gasoline because they dabbed gasoline on their neck as if it were cologne to mask the scent of her perfume. Story 29. Two most common signs I experienced. 1. They start to hide their phone, for example, taking it to the washroom when they normally would not. 2. They accuse you of cheating. Story 30. Any small inconsistency in a story about when they were not in your presence can be revealing. Over-explaining or over-describing that story can also be a warning sign. Story 31. My ex-wife used to read me the text messages she was having with the guys she was interested in, who were always my friends, to show me how funny they were. Often they were just normal, mundane conversations and not especially funny, but she would read them aloud as if they were being hilarious, and always say that she loved them when we talked about them. She meant it in the way you say you love your friends, but she said it every time their name came up. I say this in the plural because she essentially went through every man in our friend group trying to get one of them to sleep with her. Story 32. My ex-husband was sleeping with a coworker. I realized when I noticed he was spending twice as much on lunch every day because he was taking her to lunch each day. He tried to play it off as if he were buying lunches for people and they were paying him back, but he never had cash from them. This was before Venmo and other similar services. I finally caught him. Dirtbag. Story 33. When your ex says she contracted herpes from the blood pressure machine at Walmart. Story 34. Change the personal identification number on their phone. Adjust settings so you cannot preview messages on the lock screen. Turn their phone away when they are next to you. Story 35. When they start using mannerisms and vocabulary or slang they've never used before on a consistent basis, it means they are picking it up from someone they spend a lot of time with. Story 36. One example of being in denial about my ex became clear later. She went out clubbing with her friends one night and the next day she did not respond to any texts or calls. She ghosted me for about 24 hours before getting in touch again. When she finally replied, she just said, "Sorry, my phone died." It didn't die because when I tried to call her it rang. At the time, I just accepted it. In hindsight, given how she treated me the rest of the relationship and how much she cheated, it is obvious she hooked up with someone that night and didn't respond either because she was still with him or because she felt too awkward to talk to me. It was clear in hindsight and I have no idea why I ignored it then. Story 37. When they suddenly go to a Coldplay concert with their coworker. Story 38. They become cold and distant, hide their phone, and constantly want to be alone. They may try to break up suddenly, go from bragging about you to trashing you to friends and family, send thousands of text messages, have inappropriate pictures you have never seen, and use secret or dating apps. Story 39. I have been cheated on a few times, and one of the less obvious signs, in my opinion, is that in the early stages of cheating they do all the little things to please you. This could include buying you food or small gifts and not complaining about your spending time with friends or taking part in recreational activities. It is probably to prevent you from questioning any unusual behavior. Story 40. They suddenly send a lot of instant messages to their mother and find her hilarious. They use Facebook Messenger or alternative messaging applications to hide it. They often forget that those applications remain logged in on other devices. Story 41. When a man can't stop bad-mouthing a woman, I now understand, years after leaving a cheater, that comments like she is hideous, annoying, stupid, or weird usually mean he wants to have sex with her. Story 42. He started dressing better, disappearing and not texting, no longer needing emotional validation or company like he usually did, and seeming preoccupied and less forthcoming about what was going on in his life day to day. He stayed up late on his phone, missed events, suddenly cared about style and looked good, spent hours at the gym every other day, and cared about fitness when he never had. He was always on his phone. He became cold, mean, almost hateful, yet still insisted on staying together. He was forgetful of me, as if he did not remember or care that we were together when traveling or at an event. It felt like I only existed for him to criticize and resent. It was as if I had done something to him out of nowhere, and my mere existence made him hate me. I later found out he was cheating, which inflated his ego. Story 43. Spotting the lies. My ex had a clear tell, over-explaining when she lied. I did not fully pick up on it at the time, but I began to notice sudden changes in her explanations of where she had been, offered without prompt. She had rehearsed cover stories and gave elaborate reasons for being late. As soon as she got home, she would launch into the cover story, as if she wanted to get the lying over with quickly because it made her uncomfortable. I noticed the pattern but did not recognize it as lying at first. The sign was unprompted, often intricate explanations of where she had been and why she was late. Story 44. He started investing in his health and appearance and cleaning our apartment. I thought the depression was getting better, but it turned out it was just getting Alexa. Story 45. My ex repeatedly accused me of cheating and said he did not think my child was his. A few weeks later, I found out he had fathered a child with one of the many women he had been seeing. Story 46. This happens when they accuse you of the very things they have been doing. Story 47. My ex would never let me touch her phone. If I did not have mine and needed to look something up, she would do it. I could not even look at her phone without her accusing me of looking for something. I was not interested in what was on it. And if I told her to use her own phone, she would ask, "What are you hiding from me?" There was nothing, but she was always convinced I had something incriminating on my phone. Story 48. New slang words clearly reflect a new person's interests. Story 49. They show a lack of interest in you. They take long pauses to reply to text messages when you are not together. But when you are together, they are always looking at their phone. They often say they were sleeping and give excuses such as "I passed out early last night," "I slept in really late," or "I was taking a nap." If you ask them about their behavior, they become upset and try to blame you. Story 50. A clear sign for me was when he stopped reaching for me in his sleep. Before that, if I rolled over or pulled away to adjust, he would keep cuddling me even while asleep. The first night, he simply stayed on his side of the bed, and I immediately noticed that he had already subconsciously disconnected from me. I later found out he was cheating with multiple women. Story 51. Not sure this counts, but she said dating more than one person is fine. She told me another man liked her, but she told him she was seeing me at the moment. Later, I noticed friend zone signals, and she left so she would not have to find an excuse to date the other man. Sometimes it's better to walk away before it happens if you can foresee it. Story 52. They begin taking better care of themselves. They lose weight, start dressing better, and make other positive changes, but it is not for you. Story 53. A sudden change from being too relaxed all the time to regularly being angry with you because of what life does to them. Story 54. Projection. Constantly accusing you of cheating despite no evidence. I was not the one working late all the time. Story 55. Refusing to connect their phone to the car for navigation because the fuck buddies texts will pop up for everyone to see. Story 56. Whenever you call them out, they turn the situation against you, and you end up apologizing even when you did nothing wrong. Story 57. After introducing his future cheating partner, a future cheater said that she was the nicest person he had ever met. She later helped wreck a home, but whatever. Story 58. Lack of trust and security. If they have cheated, they are already lying. If they are lying, there will be a vigilance about what you say and think, which is a direct result of their insecurity and fear of the truth being discovered. I am keenly aware of very subtle shifts in people's energy and body language because of childhood trauma, which makes me attuned to those signs. That insecurity shows itself in everyday interactions. Another sign is that when people lie, they stop or dramatically reduce the use of pronouns in their stories. They will become more critical of you and your behavior to throw you off, because on some level they know you will notice the change and want you to believe you are the problem, not them. Story 59. I've scrolled pretty far and was surprised not to see any mention of working out. When people start getting into shape, they buy new clothes and wear cologne or perfume when they did not before. Story 60. He stopped laughing at my jokes, and any bid for attention was met with annoyance and a scowl. Story 61. They start talking about the new guy at work almost all the time. Story 62. A sudden glow-up that never gets discussed. Working out intensely, changing clothes and hairstyle, and overhauling makeup. In a committed relationship, partners talk about these kinds of shifts, such as feeling overweight, disliking their hair, or wanting a new wardrobe. When someone makes these changes suddenly and without communicating, it suggests they have found someone new and exciting to impress. Story 63. Absolutely nothing. People lie to your face and gaslight you into thinking you're the crazy one for having a gut feeling. Story 64. She suddenly became interested in keeping her pubic area shaved. Story 65. He started complimenting me on things he had not seemed to notice before. How white my teeth were, how good I smelled, and how young I looked, as if he were seeing me for the first time. It was a comparison. The woman he was cheating with did not take great care of herself. I thought it was good until I found out. Story 66. They don't want to have sex ever. On the other end of the spectrum, a woman answers her phone when you are long distance. Story 67. He started talking about how others did it out of the blue and said he would never do it because it's a sin. Story 68. It is hard to notice. My uncle had been unfaithful to my aunt for most of their 30-year marriage, and no one suspected. He is the sweetest, most humble man I know, yet he had affairs. Story 69. What hurts most is when there are no signs of change because they were never truly loyal to you. When they try to act loyal after you find out, they become unbearable and expect you to idolize them for their supposed sacrifice. Story 70. This post has made me very insecure. Feels like anything can be taken as a sign of cheating. Story 71. They accuse you of cheating or of wanting to cheat, even though you never broke their trust. They are the cheaters, and that is the lens through which they see everything. Story 72. I have been cheated on, and nothing was obvious until I read this post and reflected. There were many instances when I asked for details and it felt off. Usually when you are dating someone and they are out doing something, they will tell you about it when you check in. Sometimes I felt I was prying for basic conversational information. I would get the cover story right away, but the details were vague. Story 73. They want to keep you on a short leash but call you controlling if you ask where they were last night or why they did not answer calls or texts. They also accuse you of cheating and suddenly say that cheaters are the worst. So much projection. Story 74. A man I know had a girlfriend who would smell his genitals to see if he had cheated. He would give them a quick wash after sleeping with a random person. She was cheating too, and they deserved each other. Story 75. Suddenly buying a new, different style of underwear after you have begged him for years to replace his holy, tidy whiteies. Story 76. New underwear and more grooming downstairs than before. My ex went from grooming once a month, which I was fine with because I like a trimmed bush, to shaving smooth before a work night out. Her panties changed over a few months from cute, sporty, full coverage styles to much smaller ones, then to lacy thongs and finally to matching bras and panties. I did not question it. I was happier at home with more time to watch old concerts and a bottle of whiskey. Story 77. Their moods are disconnected from yours. They may be angry or happy for no apparent reason, without you having done anything. Story 78. When someone tells you stories about a friend who is cheating, they are actually talking about themselves and their own behavior. Story 79. This is not an answer, but it is worth noting. Sometimes it is not obvious. A person may be highly adept at covering their tracks and may have advantages, such as being at a distance or working an alternate shift, for example. These threads can help identify oddities, but sometimes you will not know until it becomes obvious or someone tells you. Story 80. He kept telling me he was going for walks with a friend. I did not think much of it because it was when the pandemic rules were lifting in our city and people were reconnecting with friends and family outside their bubble. He dumped me out of the blue, and I ran into them a few weeks later at one of our favorite date spots. Story 81. When he comes home and leans in to kiss you with his beard smelling like her, of course I don't know what that smells like, and I'm crazy. Story 82. When I was in college, I went to a friend's place. I had been there for 10 minutes when I received a text asking when I would be coming home. My friend and I thought she was being clingy. It turned out she was timing how long I would be gone, so she would know how much time she had to spend with the other man. Story 83. My wife was pretty negative about anything I said. If I said it was 12, there was a huff and she said no, it was 13. Anything I said in a normal tone, she accused me of biting her head off. One day she seemed to be getting more text messages than usual. I confronted her. She looked like a deer in the headlights and denied it. But when I pressed her, the truth came out. 3 weeks later, she was living with him and we had filed for divorce. Story 84. Taking up a new hobby, listening to unfamiliar music, using slang that would normally make them cringe, and changing how they speak. Story 85. Sleeping a lot at home and not interested in making plans. Story 86. They suddenly wore scents they would not normally use. Many new clothing items arrived in the mail. Story 87. They suddenly take an interest in where you are going and when you will be home, and encourage you to leave the house more often. Story 88. Create a post on Reddit asking for signs that may reveal a partner's cheating. Story 89. My ex was very loving and caring and did everything for me, my friends, and my family, but some of his stories did not line up. They did not make sense. I am an empath, so my intuition and gut were screaming at me that something was off. For 6 months, I asked him about one particular woman I had a feeling about. He gaslit me every time I brought it up, calling me crazy. 6 months later, I discovered the truth. He was seeing her. If something feels off and you are feeling overwhelmed, start trusting your gut. Story 90. A sudden interest in their appearance that is not meant to elicit your reaction. Story 91. Wearing makeup, dressing well, wearing perfume more often, more excited about going to work, coming home later from work and often in a really good mood rather than tired or weary, spending far more time on her phone, coming in and out of the room. Her phone was on silent, and when it vibrated she would always position it so I couldn't read the screen and keep it close to her face. Another clue, which may not be obvious to everyone, is to act as if you know something and see how they react. From the examples above, I had a strong sense that something was going on. I simply mentioned these changes, then continued as though I knew more but wasn't going to disclose it. She became flustered. Her breathing grew heavier and her pulse increased. She kept asking me what I was talking about. Panicking, I left it there and simply said to her, "When you're ready to talk, I'll talk." Story 92. My ex took his phone into the bathroom but forgot it was connected to our speaker. While he was there texting her, I enjoyed the sound of his keyboard clicks. Story 93. When someone is only nice to you when they need something and then becomes extremely rude afterward. Story 94. You know, I saw my recent ex-partner about a month after she broke up with me. We were cordial. It ended because we were no longer a good fit. I saw her at an event and we hung out. I thought everything was fine. I approached her while she was on a video call with someone. She hung up quickly and put the phone away. I asked who she was talking to, and she named someone she had worked with over the summer. My eyes slid to the side and my mouth pinched. I felt a weird vibe but brushed it off. 2 months later, 3 months after the breakup, she confessed that she had been cheating on me for at least 2 months before the breakup. That was who she had been calling when I saw her after the breakup. She decided to tell me because they were becoming official and she did not want me to learn the details from someone else. It took a long time to see that narcissism for what it was. I still remember the ping in my gut when she put the phone down, and I wonder if it would have made a difference if I had asked more at the time. Probably not. Story 95. Are you being asked whether you would leave them if they cheated on you? It is ridiculous to assume it is a joke, but sadly it is not. Story 96. Being secretive about their phone, starting arguments for no reason, showing sudden contempt for you, and going out at odd times. These signs seem obvious, but when you love and trust someone, you can overlook a lot. Story 97. They start asking almost daily when you will be home, whether you are running errands or going to work. Story 98. I noticed my partner spending an hour in the bathroom at a time, asking me and the kids beforehand if we needed to use it, and getting mad if we interrupted. I thought it was the classic case of a man taking too long in the bathroom, but he was cheating and wanted privacy for uninterrupted sexting. My other ex stopped kissing me, offering only a peck, and then I saw him making out with my best friend in the parking lot outside our apartment while I was inside watching her children. Story 99. They come home smelling of a different shampoo or soap, or even with wet hair. They have previously refused to shower at the gym. Story 100. They accuse you of cheating and are excessively jealous. Story 101. Any innocent interaction with someone of the same gender as your partner, even a colleague or a longtime friend, becomes an issue. My ex and I were out shopping when I got a call that my coworker had been in a car accident. She was okay, just a little banged up, and we needed emergency coverage at the store. My ex dropped me off and said he would pick me up at 7 p.m. At 6:30 p.m., we were slammed, so a male coworker offered to drive me home if I stayed until we closed at 9 p.m. I called my ex. He became huffy and hung up on me. We left a little after 9:30 p.m., which was normal for us, and I got home at 9:45 p.m. My ex was already asleep. I accidentally woke him around 10 p.m. while gathering my things to shower. He saw the time, became angry, and asked if we had had sex in his car before he drove me home. I do not have any proof that he cheated, but he did start seeing a girl soon after. Story 102. A sudden interest in improving their appearance. Story 103. Long daily bathroom breaks. Imagine being the other woman but only while he's taking a shit. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.